It is the morning after the San Francisco 49ers lost to the Bucks. Obviously, the loss that really hurts is the loss of 49ers linebacker All-Pro Fred Warner. And I just woke up this morning and it's kind of instantly where my mind went. And so I just kind of have a couple thoughts. I think yesterday, because, I'm working the game, so yes, I do have emotions and feelings, but a part of me is also like I have work to do, I have content to make and posts to make, so I have to stay in a certain frame of reference and like a mindset that like I can't just like totally like take a step back and totally assess everything through, I would say, almost the lens of a fan, because I'm just so focused on doing my job. So now that I've had that time to just kind of take a step back, take an inventory, and not only look at where the 49ers stand now, but what remains the rest of the year. Let's talk about the facts. The 49ers are 4-2. They're 3-0 in division, and they've set themselves up nicely. They've set themselves up for, I guess, to be able to withstand some injuries, or at least a little nudge in the right direction. But the truth is, we're only in the first portion of the season. Obviously, we're now moving into that second stage, kind of that second third of the season, the chunk, the meat of the year. Preseason football for the starters is over, and now this is where we are going to start to see what teams really are, what teams are healthy, and that is going to make all the difference in the end. And so this is where I'm kind of at. The reality is that the 49ers set themselves up well, but now the real test begins. No Fred Warner, no Nick Bosa, the rest of the season on a depleted defensive group that we already knew was thin heading into this year. The 49ers got rid of a lot of players, especially from that defensive line. No Leonard Floyd, got rid of Malik Collins, which was a bit of a surprise when it had happened, but we knew why they were doing it. They're trying to get younger, trying to get cheaper, and so we rationalized it. Now, without Fred Warner in the mix, you're looking really thin at linebacker. The 49ers did draft Nick Martin in the third round, but from everything that we saw from preseason, I don't know if Nick Martin is ready for the lights just yet, which is why he has been inactive throughout the beginning of the season. So it is going to be very interesting to see how the 49ers react to this. And when I say react, not panic, trade, or sell players, I'm just really curious to see how they respond. And, not only with the roster that they do have, but do they go out? Do they try to trade for someone? Do they go out and try to make a move that kind of injects some life into the defensive group? I can only imagine how deflating it would feel for, like, let's say a Deommodore Lenoir, a D. Winters, the guys that have been there, and just to see, both the captains of the defense, go down. And so it's an unfortunate situation. I think the way that I'm looking at the rest of the year is, thankfully, the 49ers were able to win the way they won early on. However, we do have to be realistic. It's not like they were winning because they were just playing, great football. They were playing gritty football. They were playing a certain brand of football where they're not giving up and they were winning gritty, which is a good thing. I talked about that quite a bit, but also there's an element that needs to also occur where, yes, you win gritty, but you also execute at a high level. And I think with what we saw against the Bucks, we didn't see them execute at a high level, and that is ultimately why they lost the game. They had an opportunity to win that game. Both the games that they have lost versus the Jags and versus the Tampa Bay Bucks are very similar. They were in a position to win, or at least make that game closer than the score would indicate. But it was critical mistakes at critical times. The interception when the 49ers were down 8. They had the opportunity to drive down, score a touchdown, 2-point conversion, tie the game. There were multiple things. Stopping Baker Mayfield, just sacking him on a 3rd and long. That could have changed the entire complexion of the game. Instead, they go on to score on that drive that he kept alive with his feet when it should have been a sack. So those are the things that the 49ers, I think, need to get a handle on. The injuries are what they are. And they can overcome those injuries if they execute, if they clean things up. And again, I would prefer not to see an entire season of these types of wins. I think what I kind of liken this back to is, I don't know if you guys remember the 2023 Philadelphia Eagles. I think they were 10-1 before the 49ers went into Philadelphia and gave them a smackdown. And I think they lost like the rest of their games from that point on. But if you remember that Philadelphia Eagles team leading up to that game, they were winning ugly games. They were somehow finding a way to win, right? They weren't playing well, but they were finding ways to win. And then after the 49ers beat them down, it was like oh, the jig is up, and they really didn't perform that well the rest of the year. That's kind of the vibes that I'm getting early on. It's like, okay, we're winning, which is good, but the teams that the 49ers are also playing aren't necessarily executing at a super high level either. So what happens when this team faces another team who's firing on all cylinders? Offense, defense, special teams, executing at a high level, making plays. What does this team look like against that type of team? So that we don't know yet. We're still kind of waiting and seeing how that is going to look. So I still have questions. However, there is still optimism that the 49ers can keep this rolling. Brock Purdy is potentially going to return this week, along with Ricky Pearsall and George Kittle. That will be a big boost. Jauan Jennings seems to be falling out of favor quite rapidly with the San Francisco 49ers. With the sideline situation that went down with Kyle Shanahan and the Bucks. Obviously, Kendrick Bourne has come in and just been lights out since joining the team, and effectively kind of taken over that role that Jauan had. And I understand that's tough for Jauan. He's in a contract year. He's betting on himself. And unfortunately, through the first portion of the year, that bet has not worked out. So so far this season, I would say he's lost a lot of money. I know he was wanting to get, I think, in the range of $20 million per year on average, but he's not anywhere near that right now, if you ask me. So I could probably understand some of the frustration he might have, but that's the situation that is is going on. And if there's going to be a point where you're going to turn into a distraction because you're unhappy with your contract situation, then the 49ers have to look at other options and potentially try to trade Juwan. So we'll have to see what happens in that regard. But with the 49ers getting guys back on offense, if this offense can pick up, the biggest concern really, I think, has been the run game. And it's been that way all season. And the fact that the 49ers have become so one-dimensional as a passing team is so reverse of what the 49ers want to do. We know that the nucleus of this team and their DNA is built on running the football and running the football well, but they're not doing that. And a big part of that is due to the offensive line. I think the interior of the offensive line right now is not playing well. Colby, Brendel, Pooney. It appears Pooney has taken a step back from what he was performing at last year. I don't know if that is a lingering effect of the knee injury that he suffered in the preseason, but that's something to keep an eye on. Jake Brendel, I think, has just reached that point in his career. He's never really been, in my opinion, a top-tier center. He's always been middle of the pack, and he's always struggled in the run game because he doesn't possess power. He's got decent speed and foot quickness, which would allow him to reach and get to second level and all of those things. But currently, right now, Jake Brendel if there's a nose tackle, if there's a defensive tackle, anywhere from 0 to 1 tech, he's getting bullied, and they're getting penetration and blowing up all the runs. He has become a liability, in my opinion, and we started to see that last year. He had moments where he actually played well through a couple stretches of games, but then he would revert back to this other. So I don't know if he was going through an injury or something, but Brendel's just not playing well. And I think if you want to look at the 49ers struggle, the run game, I think it starts with him. The quickest way to disrupt the play is through the interior with penetration, and that's Jake Brendel's weakest point as a center, is giving up penetration in the run game. So that's my assessment. And then obviously you have a rookie, Connor Colby. It's really hard to come down super hard on him as a 7th round rookie. He's doing his best after getting thrown into the fire. The 49ers, I do believe, need Ben Bartch back. They need to put him back into the starting lineup. He was playing really well before he got injured. Most of the people just focused on the fact that he got injured and not how he was playing, which was really well. He was up there as playing one of the best on the offensive line in regards to playing clean and doing his job. So ultimately, the 49ers got to get healthy as much as they can, and they got to keep fighting. They can't let this thing they can't roll over. And I think that's the key element here, is you have to keep going. You have to keep fighting. Yes, it's just awful, the injuries that they have sustained, but you gotta keep rolling, man. You gotta roll with the punches. This league is built on the back of adversity, so typically the ones who are standing at the end are the ones who are able to withstand the most adversity. So it's no excuse. It's a bummer. It's brutal. It's painful. And I know as fans, it's hard to deal with, because it feels like we've dealt with so many injuries, over the last 10 years. And those injuries have played such a huge role in the San Francisco 49ers success that it can be a daunting situation. So we'll see how it goes, but the season isn't over, and it's going to be interesting to see what the identity of this team looks like from this point moving forward. And I'm really curious to see how they show up moving forward. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments below, and as always, make sure to like and subscribe for more updates.